So the reality is we need some hand action in the golf swing. Even though I would preach what I would call a more body-led swing, we need some hand action. All golfers have hand action, the hands are moving faster than the body at contact. There's no doubt in that before the hand police get on board. But the reality is most golfers have too much hand action at impact. So I've been doing this 30 years, and what I would generally see with a lot of golfers is at impact, there's a flipping action. Now this flipping action is very different to what you see from the best players in the world. Now there are reasons for this. Some of it can be mobility, some of it can be the direction the club's working in, some of it can be the club face position pre-contact. So for sure, there's quite often a reason why you're not doing the right movement through impact. But what I'd say to you is if you follow what I'm going to give you today in terms of these exercises, you will start to get some feels and understanding for how the hand should move through impact, and that's probably going to help a lot of people. So I want to share with you a couple of exercises to really feel how the body and hand should move through the ball, and a couple of little instinctive kind of conceptual and drills that are going to really make a big difference. So the first thing to note is basically the best players in the world would have about 11 degrees of shaft lean at contact. So the club goes very much from being slightly ahead to more ahead in simple terms. And if we looked at trying to get this club kind of more or less still in relation to your left groin like it is at the start, but the left groin is going to have moved more forward in the lateral sense or a slide sense at contact. That kind of, let's call it active movement and force into the handle moves the body forward, and if the body moves forward, it automatically starts to push the club forward. And if we can start to get that idea of, okay, where am I putting the force in the handle and into the body, as opposed to purely the right hand or the right arm, that's essentially what we're thinking of. To feel this correctly, one of the best ways I get players to feel this is to use a split grip. So left hand at the top, right hand pretty much on the metal, just like so. And when we get into this kind of delivery position here, how do we square that club up? It's rotation. The right arm is straighting very subtly and the body's rotating and extending. If I throw it, that's a very different feel. There's very different tension in my elbow and forearm. And if you look at what that does in terms of delivery of the club, that club now is pointing up and left. Now if the club face is way open prior to these impact conditions, then obviously up and left will reduce the amount that ball will slice, and it might well give you some short-term success. But the more we straighten this right arm to do it, the more we're likely to hit the ground before the ball or top the ball or thin the ball. What it also does is throw this club head further away from us, so it also brings a heel contact and a shank contact into play, which is really undesirable. So the ideal world is we would put pressure and force into the handle, and we don't let the right arm straighten too rapidly. The right arm is going to straighten. But ideal world at contact, which I've talked about in a few of my videos before, we want the trail wrist slightly set back and we want the right arm slightly bent. And if we can guarantee those two conditions and then rotate to hit it straight, you will be an excellent ball striker and golfer. So those are the key things. Now, some of the best ways of feeling we achieve that is one, split grip, but also using left hand only, I always find very, very useful. And I kind of call this my trench digging action. So if I take a rough stance, left hand only, and I say to you, okay, I would want to dig a trench past the ball, as you can see here, and stop. So I want a sharp action that digs and stops. And in order to achieve that, I'm creating a very much downward angle of approach and a very, what you would describe as late hit or divot after the ball. So that feeling there really incentivizes my left arm and hand to work to shift that low point forward. So what I want to do once I've done a few of those trench diggers is then go to a small swing, trying to feel I'm putting the force into the same place. And I can't hit the ball any better than that. So it's a nice divot after the golf ball. The ball flight was very low, piercing, straight. Again, there's no chance of that ball going left. If I needed it to go left, I need to rotate a little bit more. So but I was pretty happy with that flight. It was certainly what I would call a really strong kind of punchy flight. So that kind of flight into the wind, that would be ideal for. And all I used from that was the feeling of putting force into the handle and making sure I shifted laterally. As I've talked in some of my other videos, when we shift down and laterally, we start to rotate for free. But what we do to transfer this into the next phase would be to start to work on the rotation and extension of the body. So once we've got the feeling of that kind of trench digger action and that kind of force going forward, it's then all about adding more rotation. So let's go ahead and do that. At the end, I'll also cover how we stay connected with this, because if we lose connection, quite often that can force us to hit shanks from doing it the right way also, and it can also cause us to hit shots that would go to the right and leave the face open. So make sure you keep watching to see the connection drill at the end also. So we're looking for really that kind of trench digger, and once we've got the trench digger, and you'll see Alex Noren doing some of this, then we're adding rotation and extension. And when I extend, I'm really trying to feel I'm pushing forward, pushing up. I'm trying my best to keep my head to the right of my knees and the right of my feet. Knees together, that kind of fall through action. I'm still happy when you do this to do this from a short backswing, because the focus should be all about how do I transfer that kind of pendulum action. And even on the golf course, you know, some little left hand only, and if you think of Alex Noren, you see him quite often doing this kind of action and then into this kind of finish. So there's kind of the anti-left, if you like, finish. I really like that kind of motion for most golfers, particularly golfers who hook the golf ball. Golfers who fat the ball or thin the ball, also just moving this low point forward is essential. So the more one-handed swings you can do, and if you're scared of your wrists, go and do this in the sand trap. Go and do this in the bunker, and just try and feel like you would get that way forward. If you want to, just get like a bag of sand at home and put some sand in the garden and try and just start doing this with your left hand. But even just moving that left hand more forward, getting this left hand to have a bit more dominance, you will feel a difference through impact. Again, it's handle force this way, creating that kind of moving that force that way. You'll soon get the club again there overtaking. I'm not trying to get it to overtake. If anything, I'm trying to delay when it overtakes for most golfers. There are a few golfers that would do this too much, but in 30 years coaching, probably 2 or maybe 1 I've seen do this too much. So let's take that now, that kind of trench digger, into a follow through that I would be happy with. And if I could hit that shot every time on the golf course, I would be delighted. So the flight in that was absolutely perfect for me. It has a dropping left draw. There's a little bit of wind off the right here. I'm in Spain doing a golf school with my good friend Chris Ryan at the Camaril Golf Resort, beautiful place. So that there, tiny bit of draw, but beautiful contact. So that for me would be a good way of progressing that forward. Then you might work that to the full backswing. Let's show you how we can make sure we stay connected. So in order to assure we stay connected, this is my favorite drill. This drill has lots of other benefits too. But if we take an alignment rod and stick it under our right armpit, when I go and do that same kind of fall through, I make sure I don't drop that arm. That makes sure my right arm can't go away, and it makes sure I can turn through the golf ball again. Ideally, I want to have this at a slight tilt, so it keeps that connection in that right arm stability through the golf ball. So again, I'm trying to feel exactly the same things, same setup, trying to feel I'm moving the force in the hands, but keeping that connection. And that one there, again, great strike, powerful penetrating. Felt like it was kind of, felt for me like it was held up but rotated like crazy. And the golf ball there again had probably a yard more draw than the previous one. But the contact felt a little bit more body-led. So we do want the hands to work. Without hands, we'd have no speed, but we definitely want to make sure that the hands aren't working overtime. So if your impact kind of looks like this, which most golfers do, we're trying to make it move more forward. As I said, the tour player numbers would be, on average, 11 degrees of shaft lean. Most 5 handicap and below golfers I teach, 5 to scratch, probably have about 5 inches of shaft lean. Give it a go and let me know how you get on.